What's going on, everybody? It's favorite dating coach Elliot Scott, and as you can see by the title below, this podcast, yes, a podcast, is going to be about why men are hesitant to commit. Now, I wanted to do this topic in terms of podcast because I can make a longer version of it. I can go a little more in detail. I could talk about different thoughts that the male goes through, different the pros and cons of him being in a relationship, why he doesn't want to be in one, why he's hesitant, why he's going to show interest either way if he doesn't want to be in one, so on and so forth. So if you like this, please subscribe. Just click the red button below along with the bell notification. I will love you forever. If you want more videos like this, yeah, then subscribe and watch this whole thing, okay? Because I'm going to go into detail. So the first question a lot of women are going to have is, why are men hesitant to be in a relationship while a woman is not? And you might have got this already from watching a lot of my videos, but I'm going to talk about the evolutionary perspective of things, which if that bores you, I'm sorry, but it's important. And then I'm going to dive more into modern day and what he's thinking, okay? But this is important to understand, though. So the job of every organism, I say in all my videos, is to survive and reproduce. If you are able to survive long enough and reproduce as an organism from an evolutionary perspective, you have done your job. You have passed on your genes. You are a temporary meat bag for your DNA. You gave it to you create some offspring, rinse and repeat. Hopefully in your species or your genes go down the line and live forever as long as humanity is around. That is what your brain is designed to do. Now, with that being said, there are two ways we go about it, and that's based on the sexes. There's the male strategy, and then there's the female strategy. One is not better than the other because they both work, but they do cause mating conflicts. Men, because of their genetic makeup, don't get pregnant. They have no problem focusing on quantity. Well, they want quality, obviously, but they don't they focus more on quantity and abundance and variety because that sexual strategy presents the most benefit for him, at least short term, which we can get into all that. So he likes the idea of, getting with a bunch of girls, having options, having variety. And of course, if he did get them pregnant, again, from an evolutionary perspective, we're talking about the ancestral man and woman back then. He doesn't have to pay child support back then. He's going to try to get with quality women, as many as he can, because if this quality woman, and when I say quality, I mean a good mother. She's motherly. She's youthful because they have better childbearing cues, and percentage of success with childbearing and birth is higher in younger women with childbearing cues like symmetry, youth, curves, breasts, butts, all that kind of stuff. He's going to try to get with many of them as possible because he's thinking, well, not only does it raise my status, by amongst men getting with all these women, but I also have a great chance of one of these offspring surviving because I'm focusing on quantity. Now, of course, a woman can't do that. A woman can't go around and spread her seed because once she's pregnant, she is pregnant for 9 months, and there is a downfall to that in terms of strategy or strategic planning, right? She can't do it because she becomes vulnerable. She slows down. She needs food and energy for two. Hormonal changes. She becomes more vulnerable to prey. Men don't want her. She might be ostracized because no man wants a pregnant woman. Let alone nowadays, a lot of you single moms come to me and say, well, men don't want guys or women with children, which isn't true. To an extent, but I don't think it is because I had great relationships with single moms, and I know a lot of good single moms who are able to give more than non-mothers. But she can't obviously do the same thing a man's doing because she is going to be at a disadvantage. So there's a conflict now. Women are like, well, I don't want to just have a man who comes and goes because I'm vulnerable. I'm left. If I get pregnant, which happens often back then, I'm screwed. And a man's thinking, well, I don't want to be tied down because I like variety. So what a woman's counter strategy to this is, well, we want, as a group, women are like, we want men who are loyal. We want men who are trustworthy. We want women who are, or sorry, we want, well, if you want women back then, I mean, that's fine too. But we want men who court us, who prove themselves, who are consistent and about commitment. And when enough women, which is easier back then because there was millions, not billions, not there probably wasn't even millions back in the Stone Age. But what happened was men had to adapt to that because women were like, well, unless you commit, I'm not giving you my seed. Which the problem nowadays is it's modern dating. It's not about, there's condoms. Guys, have to pay child support if they do get you pregnant. Women can get an abortion. I mean, nothing's guaranteed now. He can have his, or sorry, she doesn't have to abide by the rules back then. So she can have sex. She could do what she wants with her body. So it is a little different, but the brain's still the same. So a woman's like, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you sleep around and do what you want. We only going to give it up if you're a committed man. And so the man counters that then by saying, okay, I'm with you, but I'm not going to commit to you unless you're a high value woman. So the woman wants a man who is reassuring, who is committed, who is consistent, who is willing to take care of her and the offspring. And a man has no problem doing that if she's a woman of high value that other men want, because he wants that advantage of having this high value woman. Because if you were high value back then, you were probably a good looking woman that a lot of people want, that had good childbearing cues, you had some status. And if I can get that over other men, I have an advantage. So that's where we come today, which is, men who aren't going to commit to a woman unless she's high value, and women who, for the most part, want it. I mean, they're still going to give it up. Women still give it up, but women who don't want to give it up unless the man's willing to commit. So then what happens there? What a man does a lot of the times now is he's going to show you a lot of interest in the beginning. This gets into the whole interest thing now. He's going to show you a lot of interest in the beginning. He's going to court you, win you over, tell you what you want to hear, text you, reach out, initiate, take you on dates, do all these amazing things, because our mating strategy, or our mating ritual, sorry, it's ritual now, our mating ritual is, I have to win you over. You have the seed. You have what I want. I have to prove myself to the woman. But of course, a lot of women like to give themselves up easily, and I don't mean that in a slutty way. I just mean they fall for a guy too easily. They don't make him work. And then the guy's like, okay, well, if she's not making me work for it, I'm not going to invest my resources in her. I already have her. I'm going to try to have my cake and eat it too. Again, advantages. But now it comes down to the courting ritual, which the guy's going to have to do all those things I said to win you over. But of course, now there's just modern dating. Now it's strategy. Now it's, I'm going to show all these things in the beginning and see if I can get her without committing. It's kind of Knievel, or conniving, not Knievel, evil Knievel. But I mean, it happens. So then you have mind games, and mind games are coming up and going and this and that. But you have to understand the evolutionary goal of both organisms. It is to have a kid and to pass off your offspring, but some men aren't on that page yet, because a lot of men nowadays, because of feminism, natural or modern society, what they're, the belief systems, the high divorce rate, getting hurt, an abundance of women, which we can get on that. Men don't believe there's much benefit, and actually there's proof that there isn't much benefit for a man to commit to a woman unless he wants a long-term relationship, family, and those type of things. Because people used to come to me all the time, they would say, well, what about sharing those life experiences with someone? What about waking up to someone every day? What about traveling with this person? What about experiencing these great memories with this individual? And I tell women all the time, I have experienced that countless times with women, and I'm single. Who says just because I'm single I can't travel with someone? Who says because I'm single, I can't wake up to this amazing woman? Who says because I'm single, we can't create memories? Who says because you get what I'm saying? So guys don't see a benefit in committing to a woman unless she's, one, extremely high value, and he's using it as a defense mechanism, as in, I need to take you off the market because I see your value, so I'm going to take you before other guys do, aka I think you're the best I can get. Or two, he's wanting long-term relationship and marriage and kids. Then obviously the best way to do that is to get together, have a child, and raise it as a family. That's where marriage comes in, obviously. There is great benefits to that, and men know that. But unfortunately, men have this way of thinking nowadays, which is like FOMO, fear of missing out, where they don't want to commit to a girl unless he has this checklist checked off, where he feels like, okay, I want to travel, I want to make $1 million, I want to make my mark in humanity, I want to be with X amount of women, I want to have my cake and eat it too, I want to play the field, and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, if men don't hit those strides or check off that list, and a lot of them never do, then they don't want to commit, because if they commit, they're really not going to get it. Just think about it. If I want to travel and spend all this money that I made, you can say it's selfish, it is, but if I want to travel, I can't if we're married and we have 3 kids. If I want to spend this luxury lifestyle I started by by busting my ass to make this business, I can't if I have a family. I have to buy a house. I have to provide for 3 or 4 other people, depending on how many kids you have. Which, again, there's nothing wrong with doing that. That is a great and beautiful thing, and that is the goal of every organism at the end of the day, whether you want kids or not. That's the way the brain thinks. However, if he's not at that stage yet in his life, because he might have Peter Pan syndrome, he might have the FOMO, the fear of missing out, or whatever, you could say it's childish, but if a man does not have that, then he is not going to commit. And what happens usually is women get upset because he's showing this interest, but he's not committing, which we can get on again later. 2 different things. Me liking you and me wanting a relationship are 2 completely different things, okay? So what ends up happening? The guy has a fear of missing out. He likes talking to all these women, and he feels like, well, if I get in a relationship, then it's going to slow my process as a man or what I want down, because everyone has a blueprint in society, right? Everyone has a blueprint in mind. And when I say blueprint, that's your goals on where you want to be versus reality, where you're actually at. And the further those 2 things are from each other, the more anxious you get. So an example I use is, let's say you and I are going on a date, and I have to meet you at, I don't know, wherever the date is, a fancy restaurant. And let's say I really like you, and it took me a while to get this date. I asked, and you finally did it. I was like, yes, I finally got her on this date. I'm going to take her home. I'm going to hit it, but I'm going to stay around because I actually like this girl, but God, I think she's so sexy. You know, she's a good woman. I'm thinking we're going to have this great conversation at the date because, you know, when we talk and text on the phone, it's pretty cool, so why wouldn't it be? And let's say I'm on my way to the restaurant and you're waiting, or it's about to be, you know, it's 5 minutes until, and I get in an accident, and I text you and I say, or I call you and I say, hey, I'm in an accident, I'm so sorry, I'm going to be an hour late. Then you just you message me back, or you call me and you say, hey, you know what, I gave it a chance, maybe it's just not meant to be, and you go on your way. I am going to be extremely pissed because blueprint mindset was, okay, I'm not gonna get in a wreck. I never got in a wreck. I'm just gonna drive. I want to get there. We're gonna have a great conversation. I'm gonna take you back home. We're gonna drink some wine. We're gonna have some fun, and then rinse and repeat. And we're gonna start dating. But of course, reality kicked in, and I got in a wreck, which is not what my blueprint was foretelling. So now I'm pissed. And this is how a lot of men feel when they come to relationships. He's thinking, well, I don't want to commit to her because then I'm really not going to reach my goals. So what does a man try to do? He tries to have his cake and eat it too. And women do this too. Everyone does this, but we're talking about men here. So what a man's going to do is try to have his cake and eat it too. And that's good and that's bad. It depends on how fair and good of a communicator he is. if he tells you he doesn't want a relationship, or he doesn't give you any insight on, like, if he's selling you the idea of the future, and he's selling you on the idea of kids and family, and he wants something later on, then okay, he's bold. I mean, and then he's lying. That's not fair. That's playing you. He's not a player if he's talking to multiple women. That's not a player. That's just a guy who has options. A player is someone who paints a picture with the wrong intentions in mind, or doesn't have the intentions the same as the picture he painted, okay? So what a man's going to try to do is have his cake and eat it too. He's going to date you. He's going to court you. He's going to do all these things. He's going to get the benefits, and he's going to try to keep it that way for as long as possible. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, it can last months and months and months, because a woman likes what she has. He sold her the idea of, hey, you don't have to be alone. Hey, I like you. You like me. There could potentially be a relationship with this. And so she's very unwilling to let go in an investment. It's hard to let go of an investment of 3, 4, 5, 6 months with this guy, because of the idea of hope, or what if. She's like, well, if I let go, what if he changes his mind? Then I'm left I'm left hanging, and I wasted 5 months when he, right? If I just waited a week longer, he would have wanted a relationship. Because you see it happen, right? You see men, or women even. I know this girl, or this guy who was dating this girl back in high school, and he really liked her, and they never had sex, and they dated, right? They were just in high school, and he really wanted to. They were both virgins and shit like that. And I remember they broke up. And then a week later, she started dating this other guy, and they had sex and took each other's virginity. And he's like, well, what the hell? I dated her for a year, and we didn't have sex. Not that she, owed him anything, but you know what I mean. The guy was just upset. He's like, son of a bitch. So what happens? And so a guy's going to try to have his cake and eat it too. And a lot of times the guy succeeds with it, because the girl desires the man so much that she fears losing him. Because her strategy was quality. And you obviously get quality when you start investing into each other. You get depth. You become better communicators. You become more reliant on each other. It's more of a we, not a me relationship. But she doesn't want to start all over with somebody and invest another 3 years, because a woman's a lot more hesitant about it. She might not know why, but she's a lot more hesitant about it because she has the biological clock. Whether she's past that time or it's really early, it's still something that processes in her head, whether it's consciously or consciously. Yeah, consciously or subconsciously. I was going to say unconscious. That's not good. If you're unconscious, don't be talking to the guy. But, yeah, so, I mean, that's going to come into play. And again, like I said, a lot of guys take advantage of this because he doesn't have a biological clock. I could have sex, 16, 26, 36, 46, 56, 66, and still, be able to have a baby, as long as the woman is able to conceive or, give birth. So, I mean, you see where that's where eventually it all comes down to a negotiation. A woman has to prove her value, a man has to prove his value, that he's good enough, and then they have to want the same thing. That is very, very hard in the modern dating world because there is an abundance of women. Women will always tell me, well, why can't it be like old times when grandpa, I remember when grandpa and grandma and my mother, if you're a millennial like me, dad and mom, they got together. There was no games and stuff like that. Even though there was, and they were still playing the field, they did date at a younger age because the sexual strategy was different. They didn't have options. I said the guy's option is variety. Well, if a guy doesn't have variety or a lot of options, maybe because he's not good enough to get them. But on top of that, Grandpa didn't have Tinder, so he was more likely to commit to somebody. And that person is usually someone that you met, that is a mutual friend, that is a friend of yours, or a coworker, or someone you met at a bar or in your social circle, right? Someone, or in your radius, your town, something like that. Whereas nowadays, a guy doesn't need that. There's no urgency or threat in a woman leaving a man, because if she does, a guy, listen, I could talk to you and you can live 2 hours away, 10 hours away. I live in St. Louis or outside of St. Louis. You can live in San Diego. You can live in Canada. You can live in Egypt. You can live in Mexico. You can live in New York. I can still talk to you, and I can never visit those places. I could be, not even on top of that, I could be introverted, right? Let alone visit those places. I could just be an introverted individual, and I could still talk to as many women as somebody who goes out and does their thing. There is an abundance of women, in the downside of Tinder, which I don't think is a bad thing, or just online dating. It's not a bad thing, but the reason people like it is the reason it hurts people so much. It's the reason I make so much money, which is the fact that people aren't willing to settle because there's variety. If a man has the fear of missing out, and on top of that he has to check those things off his checklist that I was talking about earlier, and then on top of that he has, again, all these options, these abundance of women, and he's not really sure what he's looking for, and you are, but you guys just aren't on the same page. He doesn't have to weigh the pros and cons of letting you go. I mean, he's still going to, based on your value and the time you guys have invested into each other. But if he's having his cake and eating it too with you, he's going to call your bluff. If you're giving him the milk, the kitchen sink, or the cow in the kitchen sink, and all that kind of stuff, he's gonna try to call your bluff and say, well, I know you like me and I like you. I like what we have. I'm just not looking for a relationship. He's gonna hope you lower your standards to stick around. And again, that's not a bad thing. That's just a man not wanting a relationship. Now, if he bullshits you, it's a bad thing. But that's just a man not wanting a relationship in a modern day era where he can have an abundance of women. Because if you say, nope, see you later, and he doesn't bite and say, okay, fine, I'll commit, there's not a lot of downside to that, because he could talk to another. I mean, he could just cry, boo-hoo, that sucks. I really liked her, but I don't want to settle down. And even though she was a 9, I'd rather have 3 7s. That's just how a lot of guys are. So he's going to pop open his Tinder app, or it could be OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, Bumble, Hinge, all of the above, and he's going to start swiping. And then a month later, he's going to be in the process again of talking to another woman. They're a couple weeks in, and then rinse and repeat until he is ready to grow up and settle down. Now, I do think a majority of men do want relationships. A lot of women won't believe me on that, but they do, just probably not with you. I know that's harsh, but that's what I'm here for. Men do want relationships because at the end of the day, the sexual strategy is to find someone to grow old with, to may have children and pass on the DNA, right? Or the genes into an offspring. But if the man is young, or he's newly divorced even, right? I will have a lot of people come to me and they'll say, well, this guy is 45 years old. He's been married for 20 years. I'm like, whoa, well, you're not going to get this guy to commit anytime soon. Here's why. One, he's newly single. He has his newfound freedom. He's going to want to express it. He's been married for 20 years. That's suppression in a way. He was only having sex with one person. If they're divorced, they probably weren't having sex often at the end anyway. But on top of that, this man is seeing a whole new world. He's seeing post-internet dating, or modern internet dating. 20 years ago, back in 99, there wasn't Tinder, there wasn't smartphones, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't OkCupid, there wasn't other dating apps and dating channels and things like that. There wasn't YouTube, there wasn't tricks on how to get men to like you, how to get women to like you. He is going to go through this entire process, whether he was in a relationship or a long-term marriage, and he is going to express, the man's going to see, he's going to want to be a man. He's going to want to see if he still has it. And that's one of the ways he's going to do it, sadly. So, if you're talking to a man who's newly divorced, it's hard to get the guy to commit. It's based on value. But a lot of the times I feel like even though you have a lot of value, is it worth a newly single man who has this newfound freedom that he wants to express, on top of that with all these advantages in doing so, such as internet dating, apps and things like that? Is he going to want to commit to you and give all that up? Sadly, no. What he's going to do first is try to have his cake and eat it too. So hopefully we at 24 minutes. We're about to get 25 minutes. Yeah, hopefully I summed up a lot of stuff there. If you guys have any questions on that, I love this topic. I love the evolutionary psychology perspective of it. Now, of course, if you want to know what to do in terms of all this, I am making a course on it. I'm not trying to sell my course because the course isn't even out yet. But I mean, the course is going to last forever, so I can't put it all in this video. It just comes down to value and finding the right guy, which is what that course is going to be on. And again, I can dive hours and hours into that. The course won't be out probably for another month. But with that being said, ladies, I love you. Take care. If you have not yet, please subscribe, and peace.